Where was Glen in 1967?
Actually, in 1967, I was living on a commune in California.
So you're a hippie. You're a Berkeley hippie.
I'm a Berkeley hippie, and I came down to help a friend of mine who was just starting to build homes for snowbirds that were beginning to discover St. John. It was some of the first houses built in Catherineburg. And because I was used to working with my hands without electricity, it worked for a while, because in the first couple of houses we built, we did them all by hand. I learned a lot of new skills. I loved the ruins here, and I started discovering how well they were built, how interesting they solved environmental problems that the buildings I was building weren't solving very well.
Where did the brick come from when the Danes were building these structures?
The craftsmen that did a lot of the stonework here were from Europe, and they were used to using brick. And of course, when they came here and there was only stone, they were, it was hard, because it was hard to make an opening with stone. The ships that were bringing supplies in, and more importantly taking stuff back to Europe, because that's what they were really doing, taking rum and sugar and the things that we produced here back, they never come with a full ship. So for ballast, they'd fill the bottom of the ship with brick. Huh. So the brick was ballast, and when they got over here, then they could sell it, because the tradesmen that were actually trying to build the buildings here loved to have brick to build around the openings. And of course, in all that transfer, there was a lot of broken brick, and they would use the broken brick then as the spalls in between the stones to prop the stones up while they were building the walls, and to allow the plaster to stick on the walls after, because that's what they were trying to create, is plastered walls. So it's the brick was really a product of the ships coming over here and needing ballast. In 1978, Rudy and Irene Patton and Donald Schnell and Linda Smith Palmer all had little shops down in what used to be the backyard, which is now Crazy Crackers. And I became real good friends with them. We were all about the same age, and there was still no parking in St. John at that time, and there were no restrooms downtown. And so no parking, no restrooms, and I said, I can do better than that. I keep telling people the main reason we built Mongoose is because of restrooms. And so we always had good restrooms, and we always had parking.
What was the reaction of people in St. John? I mean, it was at the time a strange location.
It was. Everyone thought it was too far out of town, and nobody would ever come. And believe me, that did worry me. And the Boulogne Center was being built at the same time in town. And so we were kind of competing centers. It was scary to me, because I didn't have much money, and I was doing the best I could do. And unfortunately, the economy at the time wasn't so driven that you had to be completely successful. There was time in our lives to reflect and be okay and go to the beach and, do other things. And so there was just enough space and room to allow me to grow into my success over the first 4 or 5 years.
Glenn, back here, I don't think most people even know that this exists back here.
I'm very proud of it, and I love it, and I love to show people, and yes, they don't know. It is because we have this wonderful wall we built, and it all looks pretty natural, and the trees are special. We really have big trees, as big a trees as anywhere on the island, and it gives us shade. And I never had a backhoe on this property. Every bit of digging we did here, we did by hand. And we could afford to do that in the old days. I had guys that worked really hard and, didn't get paid that much, so it was affordable. And all these walls were all dug by hand, and because of that, we didn't disturb any of our major trees. They're all still here. When I did Cinnamon Bay, the big rain tree, that was the primary thing that Rockefeller wanted that built around. That's why it ended up there. He loved that tree, and everybody wanted him to build the center down on the water, and he said, no, I want it up here.
Right.
And in a way, he was right, because that shore, Cinnamon, keeps eroding back. If we'd have built it down there, it would probably be in the water by now. This is my suspension bridge.
It does wiggle a little.
Yeah. And it's been here for many years. It works great. Except one of these Rob's going to make me put railings on it.
I'd really like to at least one side.
What kind of architect would undertake a project like this, building something this size with an active gut running right down the middle of it?
Well, I have two answers. One, I didn't know it was that active when I bought the property, but the most important success of Mongoose was not my doing or my understanding really. Is when I submitted for permits, it was the very month that they started the earth change department here that was run by the federal government, and there was a federal engineer here from the States who came over to give me my permits, and he said, I don't think this is going to work, and he said, let me go figure it out. He went back and he came back and said, you can do these buildings, but you got to raise them all up 5 feet. And I did that, and to this day I love him dearly because I wouldn't have survived any of those floods if it hadn't been for him telling me I had to raise it up. The wages went from $5.50 to $6, $7 an hour to...
One more question for you. Where did the name come from Mongoose Junction?
Oh, that one's easy. Many people used to live in Chocolate Hole, and there was a place where all the trash was thrown, and it was never really thrown quite in the barrels. It laid all around. And right there at that corner, we started calling it Mongoose Junction because that's where we would meet, and there were always mongooses around. A couple of people from St. Thomas always used to give us a bad time. They said, Mongoose is more elegant than that. You know, and I just kept saying, you know what, I love it, and you know what, it's fun, and it's playful, and so Mongoose Junction, we did steal that name from another place on St. John. I can look back and see a lot of things I've done, and I know that there's building techniques and things that I've evolved on the island. Not that they've been original with me, but a lot of that's from the ruins that I just identified had been done 200 years ago and been forgotten about. A lot of great things in the world were done a long time ago, and then we get so busy with our craziness and how we live our lives today that we forget about some of those traditional methods and hand labor.